Everything in Pacific Rim Uprising moves slightly too fast, and it's so frustrating. The original Pacific Rim succeeds in large part due to the fact that everything feels like it has this major weight to it. The Jaegers take effort to control it. The pilots are connected physically to the Jaeger and their legs are strapped into these leg contraption things. Everything is just so slow and deliberate in that film. Here, it's the opposite. The Jaeger pilots are pretty much completely disconnected from the Jaegers, and as a result, they really don't feel like they take effort to control and move. It just doesn't feel like the Jaegers in this film really have the weight that they did in the previous film, and that's such a shame because that was such a core part of the style of that film. I have mentioned Thunderbirds about enough times in this series at this point, but I'm going to bring it up again, and I'm going to repeat a point that I've made before. Thunderbirds, using model work, was shot in slow motion so that everything would feel like it had a real weight to it. That's why so many of the effect shots of those productions feel so real. Our brains understand that the bigger something is, the more effort it takes to make that thing do something. As a result, those things are slower. That's just how our brain understands the world. Here, the Jaegers just move slightly too fast for your brain to be able to process them as real things, and it really takes you out of the movie. Similarly, the photography in the original movie was all made to look like it could feasibly be shot if you were really shooting these big robots and big kaiju fighting. That's just not the same here. The camera, as with the Jaegers, just doesn't have the same weight, and it really feels like it's just unaffected by the presence of these giant things. The camera moves far too effortlessly between the Jaegers for their hero shots. Similarly, the Jaegers pass too close to the camera during action sequences to make it feel like these could reasonably be shot in helicopters. It's all just too close for comfort and all just a bit too loose. And that's without mentioning the bizarre zoomy simulated one-take thing that they do before the third act when everyone's prepping up their Jaegers, that bizarrely ends on just the weakest moment out of the ones they show. There's just a lot of bizarre choices all around. I will say, before moving on from the effectsy stuff, that the kaiju doing a Megazord at the end was cool. I liked that. The characters and story is... they're likeable enough. I think if this wasn't John Boyega, it wouldn't work nearly as well. It's nice to see Burn Gorman get to be the guy in the chair hero for a bit. It's always nice to see him get a little bit more to do. All in all, it's just not great. It's a fun enough time, but when you have the original and just how great it is, it just doesn't live up in any way to the Pacific Rim name. I'm on to the penultimate movie next. I genuinely cannot believe I have got to this point with Godzilla, King of the Monsters.